Namaste. There are wounds that never show on the body that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds, said Laurel Hamilton. Sadly, suicide of film stars often bring to social awareness the topic of depression. Depression is one of the most common psychological disorder. One estimate says almost 30% of global population is suffering from depression of some type. And to discuss this subject today, we have with us psychoanalysis consultant, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, can we start off with what is depressive disorder?
One way to classify all psychological disorders is to classify them into thought disorders, mood disorders, and conduct disorders. Depression, the entire range of depressive disorders, essentially is a mood disorder. It is deterioration of the mood below the normal line. What we mean by this deterioration is uh, excessive sadness, excessive anger, irritation, disturbance in food, disturbance in sleep, uh, avoidance of people, loss of interest in pleasurable activities, and other such characteristics. Depression, in one sense, is quite common and it is not exceptional like schizophrenia or disassociation. This is something which most human beings would pass through in their lives at some point or the other. In a mild form, I'm not talking about major depression, but in a mild form, this is almost a given of the human condition for most people. Depression also is uh, a pandemic today, even more infectious and more widespread than the COVID pandemic that we see. Uh, People estimate that almost 30 to 40% of people in India and maybe about 25 to 30% abroad have experienced some sort of depression. And we are talking about adults in their lives. India, in that sense, seems to be a depression capital of the world also, along with being the diabetic capital. Depression also is one of the largest pharmaceutical industries when it comes to treating depression. Antidepressants are a large, uh, what they call the the blockbuster drugs, and antidepressant drugs fetch billions of dollars of revenue to large pharmaceutical companies. What is called the happiness pill or antidepressant drugs, they have now become the part of almost everyone's life in the Western developed countries. There is bio, psycho, socio, all the three sources contribute to depression being so widespread. It is not only a bio-psycho phenomena, it's a social phenomena also. And the new emerging modern ways of living, the modern society, the modern family structure or the absence of it, all of it contribute in some way to this pandemic of depression. So much so that people have started feeling so depressed and lonely that in some countries we now have a cabinet minister for loneliness. And I am not surprised if we soon have a cabinet minister for depression also. The pandemic is spreading so wide. The simple fact is that it's not simple. The fact is simple, the results are not simple. The fact is somewhere we have forgotten how to be happy, and it is not entirely our fault.
True. So, sir, what are the disorders that are covered under this chapter in DSM 5?
Uh, this chapter covers the dysregulated mood disorder. It covers major depression. It covers dysthymia, and it covers premenstrual uh, dys, uh, dysphoria.
Right. And what is a psychoanalytic explanation when you say, I mean, for the causation of this disorder?
Okay. Before I come to that, can I just continue the first part? I think I can add something to the first part I forgot. Uh, if we look at this, uh, the four elements in this chapter, okay, the first one of the dysregulated mood disorder, that has more to do with people with less than 18 years of age. So usually it is 6 to 18. And this was brought in to avoid overdiagnosis or wrong diagnosis of bipolar in children. And this is a very important element where if we see irritation, if we see anger, uh, if we see the sadness and low mood, if we see attacking behavior, which is disproportionate and out of context to the age of the person, and we are looking at the age group of 6 to 18, and the usual diagnosis is between 6 to 10. So that if that kind of outburst of anger or outburst of sort of assaulting behavior or attacking behavior is seen at least 3 days a week for a period of 12 months, then that disorder becomes a good one to look into. Then we look at major depression, the real uh, thing that we always talk about. So when we say depression, usually we talk about the major depression or major depressive disorder. Here, what we are looking at is uh, we are looking at symptoms like loss of interest in food, loss of interest in activities, loss of interest in meeting people, loss of energy, loss of interest in pleasurable activities, too much of eating or too little eating, too much of sleep or too little sleep, high amount of anger and irritability, feelings of hopelessness, guilt, and inferiority. So these are the some of the characteristics, and at least 5 of them have to be continuously present for 2 weeks for the diagnosis to be made. And in many cases, you will have it accompanied by uh, continuous thinking about death or suicidal ideation. So this is the second one. Very interestingly is the third one, dysthymia, where we are looking at a more chronic but a less intense condition. So it will not be as intense as MDD, but it will be a long-standing thing. And it usually goes over 2 years. It's a chronic low-intensity problem where you display some elements of depression, but not you don't meet all the criteria, but it goes on for a very long time. And this is quite common in a much greater percentage of population compared to major depression. And most of the times, dysthymia goes undiagnosed. People just believe that they are this way, it is their nature or something of that sort. And then we have the premenstrual dysphoria, which is unique to women, where before the monthly cycle, the menstrual cycle, there is a dysphoria. The mood goes low. There is lability of mood. There is irritation and anger. There is a bit of anxiety also. And the moment the cycle starts, it reduces to some extent. And after it is over, post menstrual cycle, slowly the symptoms go up. So this is the gender specific premenstrual dysphoria. So these are the four disorders which we can deal with psychoanalytically in a deeper way. There are other forms of depression which may be substance induced or medicine induced, which are more biochemical in nature. But these four are those which we can deal with psychoanalytically. One very important thing, we no longer have the disorder called the minor depression. And my personal belief is that it should have been there, because you will find people who have some symptoms of depression, but not all symptoms. So you can't diagnose them as major depressive disorder. At the same time, they may not show the 2-year chronic duration which you want for this idea. And therefore, I personally believe there is a strong case for including minor depression of adults, not of children. For children, of course, you have it, but for adults, there is a strong case for incorporating the minor depression as a disorder back into the chapter. So this is how the chapter is from our standpoint.
Hmm. So, is that not temporary? Like, is that not due to some incident when you are saying minor depression?
Uh,
Is it not I mean, a death in family leads to someone in, I mean, leads someone into depression, which,
yeah. So
so,
that can be true even for a major depression, because the way we separate normal grief and depression is by duration. So we say, if a death in the family happens and you are sad, or you have a low mood, or you don't have appetite, or you can't sleep, or you avoid people, or you lose interest in pleasurable activities, or you become death obsessed for a period of 1 to 2 weeks, we don't call it depression, we call it normal grieving. And after 2 weeks, we start diagnosing that as depression. So the precipitating event would be there, or can be there, not always, but can be there and mostly is there for major depression also. The What I was pointing out to, that whether because of a precipitating factor or because of some internal factor, what would happen if you don't satisfy all the criteria of depression, major depression, you satisfy some criteria very strongly, and the duration is more than 2 weeks, but less than 2 years. So that is where the minor depression as a category, or rather as a disorder, I personally feel should have been brought back, or should be brought back again. And that, I think, would make the chapter more comprehensive, and people won't have to use the categories of other specified or unspecified to classify those cases.
right. So, sir, what is the psychoanalytic explanation of the causation of this disorder?
Uh, there are many of them actually. This is something which everyone has talked about, and so every school has an explanation. Let us just uh, look at it. Let us start with the Freudian part. So, or we can start off chronologically. Let us start from the birth itself. So, one cause of depression can be the loss of, or the non-availability of the good breast very early in life. And that means a cheerful, good experience cannot be had or internalized, giving rise to the opposite of it, the gloom and despondency. Then we have a real object loss at the breast stage, or at the full mother stage, or later on. So object loss is a very important element which can contribute to depression. Then we have uh, the feeling of abandonment. Then we have the cold mother, the cold unavailable mother, which can simultaneously lead to either secondary depression, secondary narcissism, or depression, with the core of depression, not depression per se, but be create the causal factor, or both of them. Then we have uh, the Freudian dynamic of losing an ambivalently affected narcissistic object. That Freud says you are related to some object in a narcissistic way, and your relation is ambivalent, which means that uh, the love and hate are directed to the same person. So it is ambivalently affected object, and such a object where the relationship is narcissistic, which means it is not adult to adult. It is one adult relating to the other as an extension of himself. And when that person is lost, it is very difficult to substitute him because he was a part of you. How can you substitute yourself? And therefore, the only way to deal with such a loss is to take that person in with all the memories and affect. Now, the affect towards that person were both good and aggressive. So all of them are taken in, and that person is taken in a psychological sense. You identify with that person, make that person your own by identification, and when you do that, the good and the aggressive feeling both turn towards yourself. So what was towards that person now turns against you. And this is often a case where a narcissistic relationship after a long time is suddenly ruptured. So this is the Freudian explanation of the of depression. Then you also have something which is uh, a series of unfortunate incidents can happen in life, which can also lead to depression. You can look at socio-economic conditions where the stress is too much and the person, because of the very socio-economic situation, gets into depression. Then we look at the predominance of death instinct. The predominance of death instinct also can lead to depression. We can also look at masochism, which can lead to perpetuate or intensify the depression. Then we look at the whole aspect of guilt. Guilt can lead to depression. Too much of anxiety or too much of object losses and pain in emotional relationships also can lead to depression. Failure in the professional area or in the social area can also lead to depression. And you can also have depression as a defense against disintegration anxiety, because uh, one element of depression is it gives you a solidity, and that is one of the reasons when you start coming out of depression, you start feeling the disintegration anxiety, and there is a call back again to come back into the depressive state because you see it as a very anchoring and a very solid state. So there is a solidity and anchoring, and there is a tendency to go back to that anchor. So it can also be a defense against the disintegration anxiety. It can also be because of midlife crisis or old age and impending death. It can also be because of very deep resignation and disappointment from life. It can also be because of regrets. So we can see a variety of reasons. It can also be because of lack of objects, which is almost a epidemic now. That we are living in a very lonely world. The number of people around us today are far less compared to somebody else 50 years back. So this lack of objects around us to whom we are emotionally connected, that vacuum around us, that emotional and social vacuum around us, also is one of the reasons for depression. Where Kohut says the other is the sunshine. That the moment the other is there and the loneliness goes, we don't feel depressed. But if we are left alone in the room for a number of days, automatically we feel depressed even if nothing unfortunate has happened. And the moment somebody walks in, suddenly we see that upsurge of positivity, energy, and cheerfulness. Vinay Khan would talk about the good mother, which would be insurance against depression. Clyde would talk about the internalization of good, reliable, stable object as a insurance against depression. And ISTTP would look at repressed rage or repressed sadness as being, or repressed guilt as being the core for depression. So this is how, these are the main factors of depression, psychoanalytically speaking, and all some of them will be responsible for each of the disorders in the chapter. But you will see most of them applicable for the major uh, depressive disorder.
Okay. Sir, and what is the psychoanalysis? I mean, psychoanalytically, how do you proceed to heal this disorder?
Uh, I think the case history gives us the root. So if we are looking at the a minor form of depression, we are looking at uh, twice a week, 6 months. And if you're looking at a major form, we may be looking at thrice a week for 2 years. Depends upon what we are dealing with. If we are just dealing with a premenstrual dysphoria, we may be looking at even something like once a week for 6 months. But the major depressive disorder, which is the core of this chapter, we would be looking at twice to thrice a week for 2 years. And a very good way is to proceed with initially a very short cohesion period of psychotherapy approach, and then followed by whatever school you think fits in, which is the cause of that depression. And depression, to bring out that anger, if the person is not too depressed, if the person is too depressed, then obviously the person has to take medication and he cannot go for a stronger therapy like ISTDP. But if it is possible, then after some cognitive and affective work done in psychoanalytic psychotherapy, one can take the help of technique of ISTDP to bring out in large amounts the repressed anger, pain, and sadness. And this means that one, the person has to be strong enough for the therapy, the person has to be healthy enough, and person has to somehow be congruent to that form of therapy. If that is not there, then we just proceed with the psychoanalytic part. But if the depression is too strong, then obviously medication has to be taken before the person comes actually to the stage where he can proceed with therapy.
Right. And of course, holistic healing definitely has a role to play here. And but can you tell us how does that help? Holistic healing.
Uh, Along with psychoanalytic psychotherapy, people have used DBT in a very productive way. People have also used CBT in a productive way. Homeopathy is a very good way, a very good addition to this thing, especially if the person is not responding well to the allopathic medication. Uh, Pranic healing and Reiki, they help a great deal in giving some good energy or removing the load of sadness of the person. And they also bring to the person some sort of a group activity which the person likes. Participating in social activities, I'm not talking about very extreme cases of depression where the person cannot come out of the house. That's a different category altogether. But participating in activities, investing in more people, having a larger portfolio of emotional investments. All of these are very essential because somewhere depression is a revolt of the ego because its desires are not fulfilled. And this revolt of the ego, because its desires are not fulfilled, becomes self-destructive. And there is an element of self-righteousness and devaluing of the other. So a lot of cognitive work also is required to stop this devaluation. Because one of the things that the depression patient does is to devalue everything that therapist says. I think Beyond uses the 3 Ds: devaluation, destruction, and he says it devalues, it destroys, and it denudes. And he brings in the element of envy, that there is also an intense envy towards a happy state of being, which also is, according to him, one of the causes of depression. But be that as it may, when we look at homeopathy, we look at yoga and pranayama, we look at pranic healing and Reiki, we look at social immersion in social activities, we look at social support groups, we look at family support, and we also look at some relaxation techniques or music therapy. All of this, they work very well to complement the mainstream work that we are doing of psychoanalytic with some sprinkling of DBT or CBT, and this holistic package that complements that.
So when you say envy, it is envy of self or envy of the other?
It is both. First, it can be the envy of the other, but there is also an envy of the goodness in oneself. So one part of the person wants to move out of the state of depression into a state of cheerfulness and happiness. The other part is envious of that state itself. There can be an envy with respect to one's own being happy.
Absolutely, yes. So, sir, patient education, how would it help here in depression?
Uh, I think the articulation is very important because uh, this is a problem where essentially the person has to articulate what he feels and accept those unconscious feelings. So once we tell the person what is the difficulty with him, much of the anxiety goes away because he knows what is the problem. Otherwise, he imagines the worst and is completely at the mercy of the healer or the doctor. And there is a projection of omnipotence on the healer or the doctor, and a projection of not a projection, but a de-idealization of the self. So the moment the person knows what he is suffering from, what are its symptoms, what are its causes, and how to go about healing it, even on the surface, the person is reasonably rehabilitated in one sense of the term. Not healed, but he feels relief. Second, he knows what to focus upon, how to create do's and don'ts. Third, he knows what aggravates and what heals. He knows which therapy technique works, which medication works. He also knows that there is a price to pay and certain situations are best avoided till this problem is healed. He also knows that the family members are suffering because of this. So there is a kind of a infection of depression also. It's a non-pathogenic infection where people around may develop secondary issues. It's not easy to be with a person with depression. So if you are living with a person with depression, over a long period of time, you also start developing minor symptoms of it. The secondary problem as it goes on. So when the person knows all this and he also appreciates the scientifically given knowledge about holistic healing, about social activity, about social work, about goals, the positivity and significance of goals, and the significance of positivity for himself, and to overcome the low self-worth and look at the future. When all of this is told to the patient, explained to him in a scientific way, his own ability to understand, manage, be at peace, and contribute to his own health and contribute to the well-being of parents to some extent, and to minimize the social cost of the disease. All of this is enhanced with right and adequate amount of psychoeducation.
Yes. And so, what should the family members and the caregivers of someone who's suffering from depression should be mindful of?
Uh, First, I think is they should take care of themselves, because the first danger is of they developing a secondary depression problem or a secondary anxiety problem, and in turn not being able to take care of the person. Rather, the whole house becomes like a home of aggression, because everyone is irritated and everyone is angry at each other, because practically everyone in the house is depressed to different levels. So you have one major depression and you have many other minor depressions, and then it's a mutually multiplying self-cascading environment, that it is just a home for explosions. So that has to be avoided, that if one person is in depression, there have to be a few people around him who are peaceful and who can act as good containers and not explode in response to explosion. So the first is the caregivers have to be psychoeducated about depression, about the problem the person is facing, and the do's and don'ts, and to take care of themselves so they don't land up into trouble. That is number one. Number two, communicate to them some information to note down the do's and don'ts. Three, what works and what does not work on the person. It's always good to have a third party information on this aspect, apart from what the patient reports himself. Fourth, to help the person in his own efforts at healing, maybe holistic healing, maybe going into social groups, maybe doing something positive using relaxation exercises, whatever he wants to do on the front of social immersion, social work, holistic healing, apart from the central healing of therapy that we do. So uh, all of this we can have much better coming from the parents and the well-being of the parents or the caregivers, whoever the case may be. And also very importantly to know when it is an emergency, so that when suicidal ideation becomes too much or the withdrawal becomes too much, the family members or caregivers also should know when the emergency bells are ringing and one has to immediately go to a psychiatrist. So all of this, uh, yes, and not to persecute the patient and add to his misery, to understand that it's going to take time for this problem to come out. And the roots of the problem are deep in the unconscious most of the time. And the person is not doing something by doing something consciously. It is happening despite himself. It's happening beyond himself. So once all of this is understood, I think the caregivers or parents are much better placed to help the patient recover as fast as he can.
And before we conclude, I was just wondering, sir, when you say this climate induced depression, so where does that come? It comes under the, it's more, it is not, it would last typically for 3 to 4 months, right? Or maximum 6 months.
Which one?
Something which is induced because of change in climate,
Yes, now
due to climatic change. So when you were saying we should have a minor depression, were
yes,
you referring to that?
no, minor depression can
Okay.
happen because of variety of reasons, but you have
Yeah.
pointed out something very right. I think we are
Mm-hmm.
that part also from DSL. The uh, the difficulty when we feel gloomy and we feel depressed, we feel low just because of a change in season or just because of low sunlight. And this is something people going from the equator region to the northern hemispheres immediately report. So I think those kind of short-term minor depression category has to be brought in. And minor depression can happen because of variety of reasons. One of the reasons can be what you said of actual physical geographical climate change. It can also be
Mm-hmm.
because of some temporary loss in business or something of that sort.
Right.
Temporary
Yes.
loss in relationship or
Yes.
something of that sort.
Yes.
And one thing I forgot to say, in the healing of this depression, internalization of good, reliable, stable object is very important. And that often needs a more stable, cheerful kind of a therapist.
Yes.
And not that you don't project and introject, of course you do that, but the reality of the person uh, helps out accelerate the process.
A need for a stable and a stable, I don't want to use any other word, but therapist is very important. Thank you, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya, for sharing your knowledge with us. And we've covered today depressive disorder, and in our subsequent videos we would be covering other such disorders from the DSM-5 in the same way. So do keep watching. Sorry for that glitch. Do keep watching our videos, and you can even write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.